Welcome to North Point. We're so glad you're here today. Oh, we got a clappy crowd. I like this. Chatty. All right. And if we haven't met yet, my name is John. I help out as a campus pastor here at our Springfield location. And this is my favorite time of year. My favorite time of year. Fantasy football and pumpkin spice lattes are in the air, okay? 20 more weeks of football. It doesn't get any better than this, okay? And this is also officially the time of year where you wear a sweater in the morning and you regret it in the afternoon. And you're reminded that your armpits don't smell like pumpkin spice. And so it's a fun time. But it's also Labor Day weekend. So happy Labor Day weekend to everyone here, everyone watching online. I'm sure there's a few of you on a weekend like this. And this is one of those times where Labor Day weekend, I tell myself that this is the slow weekend before things start ramping up for the fall. But that's a lie. Okay, because I don't know if your life is like my life, but my life just gets busier. Okay, it doesn't ever get less busy. It just at times gets more busy. And I tell myself this lie. I say, once I get past this event, then I'll have time to rest. Or once I get past this holiday, then I'll be able to take some time for myself. Once I get past this season, then I'll be able to get back into my rhythm and my routine. And I said this about summer. I was like, once I get to summer, oh, yes. Then I'll be able to take some time. And it's just so funny because like summer came and I forgot that my kids aren't in school in summer. And so they're like with me 24/7 and that's awesome, okay? And so I have like no time for myself. But there's all these things we want to do because we don't have, you only get so many summers with your kids, right? So you want to do all these projects and all these things with them. Activities, we got Silver Dollar City passes, we better go use them, right? And then they got all these sports and activities, and I just become like a chauffeur for their life and all the things that they're doing. And we got projects that we want to do in the house, and so these things happen, and all of a sudden, you're just like, okay, absolutely. Once we get to fall, then things will be better. Right? Then everything will be good. I'll be able to get back into my rhythm, back into my routine, maybe start working out again. Like it's going to be good. Okay? And then you forget okay, it's work starts ramping up. Quarter three, you're getting into quarter four, you got goals, objectives, you got things that you got to meet. Your kids are bringing home projects and you're like, is this homework for me or is this homework for you? I don't know what's going on here, okay? And there's all these things that you got going on and life doesn't slow down and it just keeps getting busier and busier and busier and you're like, what is going on? You finally get a moment to yourself and you plop down on the couch and your Apple Watch reminds you that a brisk 30-minute walk and you can hit your move goal and you're like, read the room, Siri. Okay, I don't know if that's gonna happen today. But we get stuck in this rut of busy, and our house is a mess, but we don't have time to clean it, right? Your bank account keeps reminding you that you're not disciplined enough and you're eating out too much, but you really got to cook, but you don't have any time to cook, okay? Your kids are reminding you all the time that you don't have any time, and you got to see the guitar hanging on your wall that you used to play, but you haven't picked that sucker up in a year. You used to rock. You don't rock anymore. You look at your clothes, and they just remind you suck, work out, and you're like, what is going on? And things get busier, and you just say yes to everything, right? Because you can handle it. You're different. And you got 10 unread texts and 145 emails, but you don't have the emotional energy to just unsubscribe from all the spam. No wonder you spend an hour in the morning on the toilet just to get away from it all. And we finally get a break. But we don't rest. No, what we do is we fill it. We fill it, right? I can fit in a little bit more work. Oh, I got an empty night. Let's go to this event. We scroll on Instagram and we call it decompressing from our day, right? It's like at any time at work and I'm working on medium screen and I get a little tired, I pull out small screen and I start scrolling. And then if I've been good, I give myself a treat and at the end of the night, I watch big screen. It's like, what are we doing? And our bank accounts and our calendars become scorecards of our worth. And we're just like, how do I stay awake during the day more? And how do I go to sleep at night? And so we're funneling caffeine during the day and snorting Tylenol PM at night just to get to sleep. And it's like, what is going on? And our culture loves it. We love it, okay? We're like, yeah, you should, you know what? On top of that, you should have a side hustle, right? Why have one job when you can have two? Doesn't that sound so much better? And we've got $1 million mindset where it's like, you got to wake up at 5:30 and grind. I'm going to tell you how to outwork and outperform everybody else around you. 5:30, no. You got to wake up at 4:30. You got to be the first one in the office and the last one to leave, and you got to outmom all the other moms, okay? And you got to make sure everything looks perfect on Instagram so all the moms get jealous, and you got the perfect house. perfect wardrobe, the perfect kids, and they look like little angels. And we want Mo, right? Mo leadership, Mo money, Mo responsibilities, more things to do, Mo places to be. And we organize and we organize and we add and we add. And organization is just well-planned hoarding. So we keep going and we keep going and we keep adding. And I'm like, isn't it exhausting? Like, I'm tired just talking about it. And I haven't even mentioned you and God yet. And you come to North Point Church, and we got a Pathway series, the 5 things we want for every North Pointer. And if you're busy, here's what it feels like. 5 more things that I gotta do. And we want everyone to be arrows out. We want you to be serving in your community, and you're like, okay, so I gotta serve more. We want you to have a daily integration of scripture in your life. So, okay, I gotta read the Bible more. We want you to be in a healthy community. We think that'd be helpful for your life. And so you're like, okay, I gotta make more time for friends or potential friends. We want you to be rubbing shoulders with the unchurched, the unconvinced. Okay, I gotta get out of my bubble more. And if the only way you know how to connect with God is by giving him more or doing more for him, you might be in trouble. How much more do you have to give? And I don't think more is totally bad, okay? Like, we gotta have careers. Don't, move to the mountains and just disconnect from everything, okay? These things are important. I like to eat food and sleep indoors. We gotta have jobs, okay? These things, it's not like I'm just gonna eliminate anything that's more. No, more's fine. More has its place. In fact, I wrote it down this way, here's the good news about more. The good news is this, is that more can push you past what you thought was possible. Sometimes that's cool. Sometimes we do something really hard that we didn't know if we had it in us, and we meet that goal, we meet that objective, and we're like, I kind of found out what I was made of. You're in school and you got that senior project and you pulled it off, an all-nighter with no group help, and you got the grade, and you're like, can't believe I did that. You discover something about yourself and more sometimes. You start that business venture that you're like, and I'm gonna do it differently, and I'm not gonna do it like everybody else, and it's gonna require more of me. But you do it, and it's successful, and God blesses it, and you're like, I know I'm living out purpose right now. It's important. More's not all bad. You step into that leadership role and bring stability to something that really needs it, and you bring care and authenticity, and you do it in a way that others aren't doing it, and it's like, that can be awesome. And the good news about more is it can push you past what you thought was possible, and you find out who you are in some of that. But here's the bad news about more, and I wrote it down this way, is that more can push you past what you thought was possible. So many times we find ourselves in more. We're like, I found out what I'm made of. More often than not, I've found people lose themselves in more. I've seen people lose marriages because of their pursuit of more. I've seen families fall apart because of someone's pursuit of more. I've seen people become the person they promised themselves they'd never be because of more. And I've seen more emotional and mental and physical and moral mistakes while people are pursuing more than any other time. Because they're so busy with stuff that they cut out the things that are most important in their life. The bad news is this about more, is that it can push you past what you thought was possible. And so here's the thing about today. My goal today is not to teach you how to juggle more. How do we just become really good organizers where we can fit everything in our schedule and everything has its place? Perhaps today we might have to do a little bit less so we can get a little bit more. And this applies, whether you say, hey, I'm a Christ follower today, whether you'd say, I'm just building, or I'm discovering, or I'm figuring these things out, I'm deciding what type of part I want Jesus in my life, right? Wherever you're at on your faith journey, I truly believe that today can be super helpful for you. Because this is just going to help you as an individual, as a person, and it's going to help everyone around you as well. Because your kids don't need more stuff, they just need you. And your marriage doesn't need more money thrown at it, it just needs you. And I truly believe today, God might not need any more from you. Maybe he just wants you. And so as we talk about this series today, the fifth pathway, the last one we're talking about, it's a little counterintuitive to all the other pathways that we talked about before. And today our goal is, how can we as North Pointers be aware of God's Spirit guiding our life? What would it look like to be aware of all the ways that God's working in our lives and be guided by that? Not that we're the leader of our life, but we're following him through our life. And one of the questions that I wrote down today that I think we're going to have to wrestle with during this message is this. Do you think that you need to do more for God to have his presence in your life? Or do you think you might need to do a little less to be more aware of all the ways that he's already present in your life? And so today I want to talk about a guy in Scripture who connected with God in a unique way, but I actually think it's a pretty good roadmap for how we can connect with God as well. And today I want to talk about a guy named Elijah. And Elijah, he's an Old Testament prophet. And what a prophet is a prophet is just a messenger from God that acts as a mouthpiece for God, okay? And there'd be a couple reasons why God would raise up a prophet in a land. One of them is any time that a king or queen, anytime a kingdom is serving the wrong God. So anytime they've got other gods and they sprinkle in the one true God, and God's like, I won't stand for that. It's me or nothing. The other reason that God would raise up a prophet is anytime a kingdom is building their own empire on the backs of other people. They're oppressing people, they're marginalizing people for their personal gain. And in the land of Israel, at the time that Elijah's being raised up, they're doing both. Double whammy, okay? And you got King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. You might have remembered Jezebel from last week. And she brought in all these other gods. The god of Baal, the god of Asherah. And the god of Baal is actually known as the god of fertility and the god of rain. And so what God does during this time, as he's raising up Elijah, is he brings a drought on the land, which I think is so funny that they're serving the god of rain and he makes it so that it doesn't rain. But that's, a different part of the story. And so he raises up Elijah, and Elijah is known as the greatest Old Testament prophet because of the crazy stuff that he does through God. One of them, there's a season where Elijah, they're going through a drought, right? There's no food. He's fed by birds. Birds bring him meat and bring him bread. Is that not insane? It's actually the type of bird it is. It's ravens. Ravens are bringing him food and bread. And I'm like, I know there's got to be a joke about ravens and chiefs, but I don't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx it for Thursday, okay? But he's fed by ravens. That's pretty crazy, right? There's a whole nother time where God's like, okay, now I'm going to feed you through a widow. So he's like, go to this widow's house, and she'll provide you with food. And he gets there, and the widow is like, all we have is one thing of oil and one thing of flour. And she's like, we were honestly going to make this, me and my son. We were going to eat it, and then we were going to die because we don't have any more food. And Elijah's like, there will be enough food. And day after day and month after month, the jars keep refilling. It's like wild. Even while he's there, the son passes away, and he brings him back to life. Greatest Old Testament prophet, I believe it, okay? Like, he experienced some crazy stuff. And then it all came to a head where God's like, okay, go talk to King Ahab, Queen Jezebel. And so he does, and he's like, okay, you got to choose. Are you going to choose the one true God, or are you going to choose Baal and Asherah? And they're like, we can't decide. So he challenges them to a spiritual showdown where he's got these two altars, and he says, okay, whichever God can bring fire from heaven, that's the God we'll serve. Are you in? And they're like, okay, we'll take that deal. And so he said, I'll let you guys go first. And so the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah, they pray to their God from morning to night that fire would come down from heaven and burn up their altar. And it's a drought. I mean, anything could happen, right? I mean, there's pretty dry stuff, right? And so this is the type of guy that Elijah is. He starts hurling some insults and taunting them a little bit. He's like, hey, I think you guys should pray louder. I don't know, maybe your God's asleep. Maybe he's traveling. And so they do. So they pray even louder, and they're like, come on, bring fire. And day and night, doesn't happen. And so Elijah's like, okay, my turn. So he prays to God. He actually takes 12 jars of water and pours it all over the altar, which, by the way, I'm not good at camping, but I know that doesn't help you start a fire. Okay, that's a little harder. And so he prays to God, and God brings fire down from heaven, burns up the altar. Everyone that watched they're like, okay, this is the one true God. We're following this God. Orders all the prophets to be put to death. So what do you think King Ahab and Queen Jezebel did? I mean, they got to believe, right? That's what they would do. Here's where we pick up. Jezebel sent an urgent message to Elijah. Here's what she says. May the gods kill me or worse if I haven't killed you the way you killed their priests by this time tomorrow. Your end is near, Elijah. Which, come on. He's not worried, right? This dude has seen some crazy things. He brought a kid back to life. He's fed by birds. Fire came down from heaven, and a little old queen is threatening his life. Cute, right? Here's what it says. It says Elijah was terrified. He was so scared. Elijah quickly ran for his life. He traveled the length of Israel in one day and finally arrived in Beersheba, the southern point of God's territory, which is in Judah. When he arrived, he instructed his servants to remain there while he sought solitude. He journeyed into the desert for one day and then decided to rest beneath the limbs of a broom tree. So what did he do? He ran away. He fled, and he got to a broom tree. Here's what he prayed. There he prayed that his life would be over quickly and that he would die there beneath the tree. What? This is a dude who's seen some crazy stuff. Wild miracles. This is a guy who can handle a lot. He stared death in the face multiple times, and now he's so scared of dying that he's like, can I just die? And I think we relate sometimes. It's so hard to see what we've been brought out of that all we can see is what's right in front of us. And when crazy is going on in our life, guess what comes out? Crazy. In fact, I wrote it down this way. Is that there's a world that we can't see that directly impacts a world that we can't see. There's a whole world that we can't see that directly impacts what we can't see. When life is busy, when things are crazy, when our calendars are packed, when our life is wild and overflowing with more than enough to do, sometimes crazy comes out. Because there is a whole world, if we don't process, if we don't include others into, if we don't work through, if we just ignore and add and reorganize and overplan, it wrecks us. And when I think about this whole thought, there's a world that we can't see, impacts what we can't see. I think about so many aspects of our life that we blame on other things. We're like that addiction. My guess is that addiction isn't just a behavior thing. My guess is those words that come out of your mouth, it's not just an impulse thing. That anger, that rage, that's not just because so-and-so provoked you. Those Amazon purchases you make every single day, that's not just because you had a rough week. There is something deeper under the surface going on, and when life is crazy, sometimes crazy comes out. And I truly believe this as well. There's a whole unseen spiritual world that affects our very real world right here. And this is what I have written down about this, is that there's that God's willing to wreck our present to preserve our eternity. At times, I truly believe this, God's willing to wreck our plans to preserve something better and greater for us. But so many times when our plans get wrecked, my question is this: do you see it as a blessing or do you see it as a curse? Do you see it as an inconvenience and a speed bump, or do you see it as a potential slowdown and realignment? There's a famous story about a place called Enterprise, Alabama. Anybody ever been to Enterprise, Alabama? Was it? Oh, no, a few. Okay, here we go. Some of you are going to want to take vacation here next year, okay? Wild story. Back in the 1900s, Enterprise, Alabama was high on the pole. They were doing well. Things were going great. It's a farming town. And what they would do is they would grow cotton. and they made a lot of money from it. And all of a sudden, though, one year, there is a pest that started invading their land, and it's something called a boll weevil. Anyone know what a boll weevil is? Okay, you've seen those, I know, yeah? Okay, so this boll weevil, what it did is it ate up all these crops and ended up destroying the soil, so much so that they couldn't grow cotton again. And so the town started to fall apart, businesses started to shut down, they were going under. And some farmers got together, and they're like, okay, we gotta get creative here. We gotta figure something out. And so one of the farmers discovered that with this soil, they're still able to grow peanuts. And so all the farmers got together and they started planting peanuts. And they made so much money off of planting peanuts, more in 1 year than they made of years of growing cotton, and it revitalized their society. And they were so fat and sassy after that, right? That they're so excited about the boll weevil that they actually, in the middle of downtown Enterprise, Alabama, I got a picture, they erected a statue of the boll weevil, thanking the boll weevil for coming in and eating all their crops and messing up their plans because it created a better plan. And I think that this is the only monument made toward a pest. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know any others. But next vacation, go check it out. So it'll be a great one. You can spend a whole 5 minutes there and take a picture. But I think this about our life. I'm like, what plans do you feel like God's wrecking that you're right now just seeing as a curse, but it could be a blessing? I'm like, what financial situation are you in right now that's making you depend on God like never before? What trial do you feel like you're going through that's developing some well-formed maturity in you, but you wish you weren't going through that trial, but it is doing something to you and through you? What pursuit of more has been falling apart that you just see as an inconvenience and a speed bump, but might be an opportunity to slow down and realign? And this is where Elijah's at. Elijah's like, what a curse. I can't believe this. And he's so scared of dying that he wants to die. And he's underneath this broom tree. And here's what it says. That Elijah falls asleep. And he gets woken up by an angel who says, eat, drink, you need some strength. So he does that, he falls back asleep. An angel wakes him up again and says, eat and drink, you need some strength. And then Elijah realized things weren't that bad. It's like never underestimate the power of a nap and a snack, okay? It can do something to you. And so what he does is then he starts a journey. He's like, I know where I want to go. 40 days and 40 nights, he travels to a place called Mount Horeb, which is also known, as scholars believe, as Mount Sinai, which has the name Mountain of God. So here's what Elijah does. He travels to a place where he knows he can meet with God. I just got to imagine that there's some of you here today that showed up to church, not because you like playing church, not because you just like, man, I really like the music. I bet that there's some of you that showed up to church today because you're like, I desperately need to connect with God. And I truly believe you can do that anywhere, but I do want to say this, we're honored that you're here. And we just want to be a safe place for you to be able to ask questions, to experience all this. My goal isn't to talk you into an emotional decision today. Like, that's not my goal, okay? I truly just want you to be able to sit, process, soak it in. We're going to talk about an invitation on how to connect with God. And if that fits you, take it. Hop on. Try it out. We just want to be helpful for you on your faith journey today. And so Elijah, he's in this spot where he travels to this place where he knows he can meet with God. And he gets into this cave, and God speaks to him. And God says, why are you here? Which is so funny. He's the God of the universe. You don't think he knows? And Elijah, in a nutshell, here's what he says. He says, I have done everything that you asked me to do, but I'm not getting any of the results I thought I was going to get. What gives? And so God tells him to do this. God tells him to leave the cave and go stand on the mountainside in my presence while the Eternal passes by him. It says this as he's watching the mountainside. The mighty wind separated the mountains and crumbled every stone before the Eternal. But this wasn't a divine wind, for the Eternal was not within the wind. Big old wind, but it wasn't God. After the wind passed through, an earthquake shook the earth. But this was not a divine quake, for the eternal was not within the earthquake. Big earthquake? Not God. After the earthquake was over, there was a fire. But this was not a divine fire, for the eternal was not within the fire. Big old fire? Big old earthquake? Big old wind? Not God. After the fire died out, there was nothing but the sound of a calm breeze. And through the breeze, a gentle, quiet voice entered Elijah's ears. I am certain today that God wants to speak to you. And not just today, but like on a daily basis. My question is, have you quieted your life enough to be able to hear him? God's tone is low and his pace is slow, which is so opposite from us. And this is what Elijah did. And a lot of times God's not in the big. He's not in the busy. He's not in the big old things that are going on in your life and the big events. You know, a lot of times he doesn't speak to you through the notifications on your iPhone. Like, that's not how he works. It's the quiet voice. Have you removed enough stuff so that you can hear from him? And I wrote it down this way. Is that sometimes you got to let go of what you think is God so you can actually find God. Sometimes you got to let go of all these things that you think is God so you can actually find God. And so many times we think finding God is in the things we do. And I believe a lot of you are doing really great stuff. But sometimes when we do these great stuff, we expect a different result. And you may be here today and you're like, God, I've been giving to you. Why am I still living paycheck to paycheck? God, I have been serving and I've been doing all these things for you. Why is my character still in question? God, I have been doing everything you asked and I have had a good attitude and I have watched my words. Why is my marriage still falling apart? God, I'm doing everything you want me to do. Why am I not getting the results that I expected? God never promised that's how he works. I think we think that's how he works sometimes. And we think doing more for God equals better connection with God, but that's not how it goes. We do a lot of good things. And we do more for God, but it doesn't equal more connection with God. But I wrote it down this way. And this is what Elijah did. This is the key to his success when he got away and he sought some silence and some solitude. I wrote it down this way, is that my best ability, the best thing I can give to God, my best ability is my availability. There are so many things I can do for God that I actually cut him out and I don't connect with him. The best thing I can give God, my best ability, is me just being available. I remember a decade ago in my life when I felt like I was doing all the right things. I was doing everything God asked, and I wasn't getting any of the results. And I'm like, God, I feel like I'm being obedient, and I'm in these groups, and I'm serving, and I'm doing all these things for you, but I feel so distant from you. And I remember a buddy who suggested, he's like, hey, man, you should go see a counselor. And I'm like, I don't have anything wrong with me. No, I don't need to do that. But I remember calling, I remember booking it, I remember showing up, and I talked about this rich life I had that was dripping in purpose and all these amazing things I'm doing, but I feel like I'm letting everyone down, and I feel like I'm letting God down. What gives? And I remember this counselor listening to me, and he's like, okay, let me give you a little quiz. He's like, let me break down your life in a couple areas, and I want you to rank yourself, and then I want you to tell me how you could do better in those areas. So the first area was my social health. He's like, how you doing socially? And I'm like, I'm humble. I got a lot of friends, so I guess I'm going to go like 8. I'm not going to give myself a 10. Okay, 8, I'm an 8. But I guess I could call my friends more, probably. You know? He's like, how you doing physically? And I'm like, 3. I could probably do some more push-ups, okay? He's like, how you doing intellectually? I'm just 6. I could probably read some more books. I don't know. How you doing emotionally? 9. I might be able to cry more, but like, I don't know. He's like, how you doing spiritually? And I'm like, maybe 5. But seriously, I could probably read the Bible more. I could pray more. I could, go to church more. I'm like, these are some things I could do. I remember him looking at me and be like, it's crazy because all the ways that you need, like, that you can get better in these areas requires you to do more, but I thought you're here because you don't have any more time. I was like, I like this guy. He gets me. He gets me. And I remember him telling me, maybe God doesn't need more from you. Maybe he just wants you. And he said, have you ever heard of Psalm 46:10? And I'm like, of course, but remind me what it says. He's like, Psalm 46:10. And it's easy. You can memorize it here. You can memorize it, but I'd rather you apply it. Okay? Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God. When's the last time you stopped doing more for God and you were just still? And you reminded yourself that he's in charge and he's leading your life. We have a busy world and we have a busy life and we're busy people and we are important and we add and we add and we fill and we fill. When's the last time we were just still? And it's so awkward. I don't like it. And I think it's awkward because we don't do it. I think it'd be a little bit more natural if we did it a little bit more often. But when's the last time you took time out of your day and you weren't interrupted by your Apple Watch? When's the last time that you left this sucker at home and you weren't like, okay, where did I bring it with me? Where is it? I think I feel a bumble in my. It's like, when's the last time that you just got away and you were uninterruptible? When's the last time that you disconnected from the busy that's around you? When's the last time that you realize, okay, actually, maybe I'm not that important and I don't need to be on call for everybody in my life at all times of the day? And you disconnected, and not just disconnected to disconnect, but you disconnected to be still and reminded yourself that he's God. I just believe if we do this, this can make a pretty big monumental impact on our day and on our week and our life, and it's gonna impact us and it's gonna impact other people around us. The next time you're hopping into a meeting, why don't you take 5 minutes before and be still and remind yourself that he's in charge of this meeting. God, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to act? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to stand for? The next time you're heading into work, why don't you shut off the car radio and just be still? And don't close your eyes, but just like be still, And you're like, God, guide my day at work today. Give it purpose. Remind me what I'm doing matters. The next time you head to the gym, something insignificant, I truly believe he can make significant. Who do you want me to interact with? How do you want me to act? What do you want my posture to be? What do you want me to do? Lead me, God. You're in charge, not me. The next time you make a purchase, how weird is this? You're like, no, I don't think I'm. The next time you make a purchase, why don't you take a minute before and just be still? Say, God, lead me. God, do you want me to do this? It's so weird. It's so foreign because we don't do it. And I believe it can have a giant impact on our life if we took some moments this week, just like Elijah did. You get away, get to a place you know you can meet with God, and just be still and let him guide you. And when we're quiet enough, we start to become aware of things we weren't aware of before. And he leads us, and he guides us. And that's my prayer for all of you today. And let me pray. Lord, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for opportunities like this to readjust, to realign. When my plans get wrecked, when things get busy, let me just remind myself to lean on you. Let me find a moment to connect with you. Let me not get so focused on all these things that I do for you or need to do for you or should be doing for you that I don't connect with you. Let me just connect with you. God, I believe this can make a monumental impact on so many people's lives and so many people around us in our community today. In your name.